All right, so I'm here with Kevin at Powers Brewery, and hi, Kevin.
Tyler.
So, uh, was somebody thinking about purchasing a brewery? What do you think was the hardest part when you were getting started versus like acquiring one?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, I think for us it took a year and a half, 2 years just to get the tables and chairs and product and equipment all set up, and we enjoyed that process, but it took a long time. I think the other thing is we really were passionate about the products that we wanted to make, but we had no idea what kind of community we were going to be able to build, and I think that's all gone really well here. That's always the big kind of mystery, I think, when you put something like this in a place like this is there's not a there's not foot traffic data
Yeah.
to use. So I think a lot of that stuff probably is really nice to have as a foundation.
So
Yeah.
you've been here for 10 years now, and so when you opened, you had zero customers. Now you have a steady flow of business. How long did it take you to go from zero to steady?
Yeah, I would say it was comfortingly steady growth every year. So I mean, we were profitable from day one. A lot of that had to do with the fact that you know we we were incredibly scrappy, kind of getting set up. We were in here a lot. We were doing the bulk of the bartending. We've obviously over 10 years have flipped that. But yeah, I mean, I think it being steady, obviously the last 10 years has had events that have caused things to be a little bit less steady, and we adapted as best we could. I think we did really well with that by just kind of like being open-minded and ready to evolve the business. I think the industry like needs that, and because it's kind of a new thing, there's no template, so we did a lot of experimenting, and yeah, it's been steady growth the whole way, which has been good.
So, as somebody that might be looking at this business to purchase, we're going to talk a little bit about ways to add value. But we joked yesterday about how you came from the corporate world, your CPA accounting background, but you actively chose not to run this business in a business orientation. It was more of a passion, it was more of a family pursuit. So, with that in mind, I'd imagine there's a lot of room for growth and to add on other services that you don't now? Like, what are some of the things you thought about doing that didn't really align with your preference of lifestyle running the brewery?
We were. I mean, the absolute like genesis of this was us living in an apartment in DC, having a tiny little community garden plot and making beer in the closet. And so we were like, it was that scale. And so it was a lot of like, that's kind of where our passions lie, is growing food, exploring what we can do with them in the beer, and exploring beer styles. So I mean, that's really been the thing that we've focused on and done, really, like, to your point, like, inefficiently. I had no problem like spending way too much money on a microscope to learn about yeast health and things like that, and that microscope is like sitting in my spare bedroom floor now, and it's not something that was like a profit center. So I think we did a lot of like kind of using the business as a vessel to like dive deep into those things in ways that weren't necessarily, like, to use some CPA talk, like great ROI. So yeah, I mean, I think for us, like, because that was like the focus of what we were doing, and we were mostly just trying to share that with people as a business strategy. There's other things, around events, more of the retail focused stuff. We've experimented a little bit with doing on-site food here, and I think there's a broader, more kind of like professional way to do that is not something that we excitedly stay up about, just because we, like, again, we're really focused on the beverages. So I think between the events and then thinking of this place more as like a one-stop shop for a lot of different things, which is where a lot of, there are some good comparable businesses that are having success with that, like in this broader region. I think that's definitely the direction that seems the most kind of obvious for a place like this.
Yeah, so you do have a space that's suitable for events. The outside is really charming, which would be great for events. How many events a year do you have now?
Yeah, so there's two kinds of events. So we do obviously like our programmed events for the public
That you put on?
that we put on. We really only do, I would say, like two big ones. We do like a spring-ish anniversary event that's always a lot of fun. And then our biggest thing is this big fall festival we do the third Saturday of October. That's like cars as far as the eye can see, and music all day, and vendors and things like that. And those always go well. We've always like had great weather. So that's really it in terms of like doing big events. I mean, we do a lot of kind of like what I would call smaller events. We'll do a outlaw country music thing. We'll do a Christmas market. So I think there's definitely more opportunity to like program bigger kind of retail.
Have you done any
events.
weddings in the last 10 years?
No,
Weddings?
I had a rule that we weren't going to do them, and most of that had to do with just not being set up from like a customer service perspective to do that. We have had a couple of weddings here. I think one of them was like the guys were wearing tuxedo T-shirts, like it was that style of wedding.
Have you had people ask, like, can we do weddings?
Tons of inbound requests to do them, and I think the space like lends itself to like a pretty like picturesque like way of doing a ceremony, and we've done rehearsal dinners. We have done a couple nicer events than the tuxedo T-shirt weddings since the first one, but I think we have like some rough plans around like what a pavilion for that would look like, and how to think about like how catering factors into that stuff. Definitely like something that would be like needed ironed out. But yeah, we get a ton of requests. This Fauquier County, frankly, seems to be like a great like destination place. There are other facilities. Most of them are like, explicitly about that. And I think we get a lot of requests from people that just like the space, like being outside.
Tell me a little bit about the community here. Like, I know I've been here when like there was a bicycle thing going on, and it just cars and bikes and spandex as far as the eye could see.
Yeah,
like, do you have other is that part of your community? I imagine is riders, and there are other like groups that are here typically.
Yeah, I think we've done. I think when you open up a business like this in a community like this, it's just like there's this magnetic draw of other people that are running businesses and organizations. So I've gotten, all of our good friends are not all, but a lot of our good friends are business owners, and so there's always a lot of collaboration. So that biking event is run by a not-for-profit Trails Coalition that has some business owners on it, and this is like a mecca of road cycling around here. So yeah, that's like a real fun one. We've done events with trade groups. There's a construction trade group that loves coming out here. That's fun. We've done a lot of not-for-profit stuff. There's some veteran work events that we've done. So yeah, I think that the community here is like really supportive of the small business community is incredibly like self-supporting, and I think that's been like one of the really pleasant surprises of having a business out here.
If you were going to buy this business yourself and orient it only towards business, you're not so worried about like the lifestyle of being the guy, but like you're just trying to make a profit. What are 2 or 3 of the things that you would lean into harder that you haven't done here, either by choice or whatever the reason?
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it's like what I would do if we were focused on is get a really professionally run food operation. It's we have food trucks now. We don't monetize that really at all. And I think there's an opportunity to like create a great experience for customers by having it here, having control of it, making sure it's not something that is reliant on a truck in Manassas breaking down or not breaking down. And I think there's just a lot of the community likes to come here and spend a lot of time here, and food is a big part of that. So I think that's the biggest kind of most short-term thing we would definitely dive into. And then I think creating a separate outdoor event space. It's just a great, you have to be committed to doing it, and you have to do a really good job with it. But it's a great high margin opportunity to just like allow the community to use. I think my wife is so obsessed with plants, that there's just like this, she doesn't even realize it, but there's just like this beautiful, incredibly, there's one or two of 1,000 things out there. There's a lot of other things too, but it just has a really neat kind of like biodiversity feel out in the field. And I think like cultivating that a little bit could create like a really great space that doesn't have, that is like would make for a good business, doesn't involve spending $2 million to build like some fancy wedding venue.
Yeah.
That's not what the people that call us are looking for anyway. So.
And then one last question about the established, what's here. Like you've got an expansive gardening operation here. How long did it take for all of these plants that I'm looking at back here to mature and be in the condition that they're in now?
Yeah, like my like favorite dad joke is like, when is the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of trees and perennials went in right when we opened. And a lot of that was just like we were, the garden, we were in a different part of the county, a very quick background, and my wife was full-time running a fruit and vegetable CSA. So we had 2 acres of fruits and vegetables. We had a customer base for that. So we, very quickly moved all of that over here. So the farm, we got spun up super quickly. And then over the last 10 years, she spent a lot of time investing in more perennial stuff. So less planting the seeds every year and more like really taking care of, there's a ton of fruit trees, tons and tons of like brambleberry plants out there that she spends a lot of time mulching and taking care of. We've got like a probably the most sophisticated thing here is our automated irrigation system, and so like all of that stuff's been really well taken care of. And so yeah, there's a lot of that stuff is like just starting to fruit. I mean, literally. So so like it's a neat space out there, and it's something that she takes a lot of pride in.